What's up, guys? It's MB Boxing, and today I'm going to be predicting the outcome of Dmitry Kudryashov versus Evgeny Romanov, which is going to be a 12-rounder for the WBC Bridgerweight World Title Eliminator, and this fight is going to be Friday, May 21st, from the Khimki Basketball Center in Khimki, Russia. And again, to both fighters, Dmitry Kudryashov, fighting out of Russia, he holds a record of 24 wins, 3 defeats, with 23 big wins coming by way of knockout. He is currently ranked number 3 by the World Boxing Council, aka the WBC, in the Bridgerweight division. He is a former cruiserweight world title challenger, where he fought Uniel Dordikos, losing via knockout in the second round for the WBA world title. And that fight was in the World Boxing Super Series tournament. And his other losses come to Onrewaju Dorodola, who he did lose to in the second round via knockout, but he was able to rematch Dorodola and beat him via fifth-round knockout, which is arguably his best win to date. He also was a knockout loss to the current WBC Cruiserweight World Champion Lunga Makabu, but he was able to give him a tremendous fight in what was one of the best fights of the year. I believe it was in 2019. But some of his other good victories come over Juan Carlos Gomez, Francisco Palacios, and Alexander Zhur, and all of those victories came by early knockouts. But in his last fight, he took on an unknown opponent in Vaclav Pejsar, and he won a split decision. And would you believe it, that Pejsar's record was 14 wins with 8 defeats. And if you watch the fight, I mean, you could see early on he looked good. He was able to drop Pejsar in the fourth round. But then as the fight went on, he began to tire, and it became very, very close and competitive, and either man could have won. But to get into his opponent's resume, Evgeny Romanov, fighting out of Russia as well, he holds a record of 15 wins, no defeats, with 11 wins coming by way of knockout. He is currently ranked number 4 by the World Boxing Council, aka the WBC, in the Bridgerweight division. He is the former WBO Global Heavyweight Champion, and his best victories come over Dylan Carmen via knockout, and he also was a knockout victory over the former WBO Heavyweight World Champion, Sergey Lyakovich. In my opinion, this fight could go one of two ways. It could either be a war similar to the Lunga Makabu fight with Kudryashov, where it's back and forth action, both fighters are hurting each other, and it ends in a mid-round knockout. But it could also go in a way where it's Evgeny Romanov showing a dominant showing of his skill, his power, his speed, where he could easily finish Kudryashov, who's known for having a glass jaw. I'm just going to say it bluntly. I mean, Kudryashov does have a glass chin. He's been cracked many times in his career, dropped many times, and all of his losses have come fairly by early knockout to mid-knockout. And, I mean, you do have to note that most of his losses, or all of his losses actually, come to fairly powerful punchers at cruiserweight, but you also have to remember he's one of the hardest hitters as well. And how will Romanov take Kudryashov's power? That's also another thing to take into consideration, because Romanov has never really been tested, well, his chin hasn't been tested, and so is his skill. And he's fighting a real opponent here, and it is a title eliminator, and most likely the winner of this fight will take on the winner of Bryant Jennings versus Oscar Rivas 2, which is for the WBC Bridgerweight World title. Essentially, this fight is at heavyweight, since it's like 224 to 225 pounds, but I did make a video on the WBC making the Bridgerweight division back in November, so I would appreciate it if you guys could go check that one out. But Kudryashov, as I was saying before, he has a lot of power, and he could really hurt Romanov. Romanov also has power, and he could really hurt Kudryashov. I do expect this fight to be a fairly competitive fight, but I could definitely see it being an early knockout in favor of Romanov. Romanov is most known for knocking out Deontay Wilder in the amateurs, but that was like 14 to 15, maybe 13 years ago. But Kudryashov, he has bounced back since his knockout losses, and he has gotten some victories against decent opponents, and they were all via early knockout, or most of them. But Romanov, I've noticed his style. He sort of comes forward a bit, has a good overhand right. He's sort of stockier build, and he's definitely the bigger man here, considering that he's fought at heavyweight his whole career, whilst Kudryashov has fought at cruiserweight his whole career. I think Kudryashov might be the taller man, or they might be the same height. I think they're both around like 6'1", 6'2", around there, and it could definitely be a factor. I think Kudryashov also has the longer reach, and he could definitely be using his jab and then following up with his lethal right hand of his. But I definitely could see Romanov landing an overhand right that wobbles Kudryashov in the first 5 rounds, and I could definitely see him getting stopped. So that's where I'm standing. I think that Evgeny Romanov will be able to stop Dmitry Kudryashov in the first 5 rounds to win the WBC Bridgerweight World Title Eliminator, and I think the fight will be a knockout via Romanov's overhand right. I could definitely see Kudryashov getting knocked out cold like he did against Dordikos, or just getting sort of discombobulated where he was on the ground, could not get back up. And I could definitely see it being a standing stoppage similar to the Lunga Makabu fight, or even like the Olan Rawaju Dorodola fight. So overall, as I said before, I see Evgeny Romanov getting 16th victory, 12th by knockout in his breakthrough fight over Dmitry Kudryashov to win the WBC Bridgerweight World Title Eliminator. And he will win via knockout in the first 5 rounds. And yeah, that's really it. I'm MB Boxing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.